I went there and they asked me to do an interview. They were like, "Hey, what's your background?" I was like, "You have experience." I was like, "No, I have no experience." "You speak English?" I was like, "I speak a little bit of English." And they're like, "Okay, well, we can't help you, but can you come and play for us? Like, just prove that you can play violin." I was like, "Okay." I went there and I played like I don't know, like a super masterpiece on the violin so I can prove myself like, hey, I'm good. So I just need an opportunity. And I remember the guy who plays the violin there who was like, okay, you're hired because he saw like I was good enough. Then after the years came up, when I speak about that interview, they were like, "Oh, we were so afraid because you were just a teenager. You didn't speak English. You have no experience, but you were so good that we have to give you opportunities."
Welcome to The Right Fit. Today, we're joined by Sebastian, known globally as Sebagabo, a premier destination wedding violinist and recording artist based in Florida. Trained in Venezuela's legendary El Sistema from age 5, Sebastian has captured the attention of artists like J Balvin, Daddy Yankee, and Bad Bunny. From emotional strings of the violin to high energy fusion with live DJ sets, he doesn't just play music, he creates an emotional atmosphere that defines a couple's biggest day. Bagabo or Sebastian, you're constantly evolving your setup. What's the latest piece of gear or technique you've been obsessing over lately?
Oh my God. Lately, I just got in-ears. Like recently, I just got in-ears. Yeah, those. Because like for performances, sometimes when you go like so far from the speaker, you can hear yourself. So I've been like trying those and I really like it. Like I'm not expert yet, but I have to get into it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting with in-ears because I use them obviously here for the show, and I've used them to DJ sometimes too. And you got to get used to it though, because sometimes you're used to hearing like the natural background, and I'll
Yeah,
find myself doing like one in, one out because I'm like trying to get like both. But it's also like, if you have like a sound engineer with you the whole time, that makes a difference too. That they could tweak it
exactly.
perfectly. So that's really cool. There's always some new tech, some new gear that musicians are always kind of leaning towards. In-ears, that's a cool one. So I know that, and most people know that you play everything from reggaeton to classical. So what is a song right now that you find just playing for yourself to either just enjoy or just to practice?
I will say like, well, when I perform, like any Bad Bunny song is gonna be a hit in parties. So if I play Nueva York or I play like, I don't know, Me Porto Bonito by Bad Bunny, I know it's gonna be a hit and people's gonna be dancing and all that.
Yeah.
And when I'm practicing, I will say I like to play more like improvise songs. I usually play like a track and I start like doing like crazy things on the violin. And then once I'm done with that, I start like learning songs and listening to songs. But usually right now, I will say like any Latin song, it will be like hit.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So something that I find out about you that I didn't know, obviously doing a little bit more research, El Sistema is one of the most rigorous music programs in the world. So how does that classical foundation show up when you're playing something like a Bad Bunny track at a wedding?
Yeah, so when I started playing violin, I was 5 years old. So I was like a little kid, and also I played for like orchestras all my life. But when I was like 15, it was like the change that I was like, hey, I want to do something different. I want to do more like pop music. In that time, like Latin music wasn't like that famous, but I was like, oh, let me do like Ed Sheeran, and let's do like Bruno Mars and stuff like that. Oh, but I feel like the classical train, it helped me a lot with my technique because I already have like a 10 years of technique on the violin. And then when you mix that technique with like improvising, you can do anything. So that was like the moment I was like, okay, I can do whatever I want. And I had a classical teacher and I told him like, hey, I want to play this cover of Bruno Mars. And he was like, what is that? Like, don't do it. Like, we need to play a concert next week. And I was like, yeah, but I want to do something different. He was like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, it's like an insult, right?
Yeah, yeah, he was so. But usually, I took my friends. We were like four kids. Imagine like four 12-year kids, and we were like, "Hey, play this." And I did like a whole ensemble, but with no sheet music. I was like, "Hey, you're gonna play this, dun 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 dun," and then the next one, play dun 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 dun, and then I play the melody, and we create a whole group in like the recess of the orchestra. And then when it was the end, I was like, hey, everyone, come and listen to this song. I was playing maybe like, I don't know, Despacito, for example. And we start playing Despacito for everyone. I was like, oh my God, it's so cool. And it was like, yeah,
I
that
love
was
that.
my inspiration, kind
And
of.
you said you were like 12 when you were doing that?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it was really young. I was like, well, Despacito, it wasn't the song, but probably it was another song famous in that period of time, like
Right.
11, 12 year old.
Wow, that's so cool, man. How, I feel like music is an evolution of what you want it to be, right? Music from the beginning of time, from the classical stuff that you're playing to the music that we're hearing now, continuously evolves, whether we want it to or not. And I think we always have those debates, maybe with our parents, like, "Oh, this is not music." Come almost like the same debate that you had, like maybe with your instructor, like, "Oh, why would you do that?" But I think you have to evolve to whatever feels right to you, and I think that's amazing that you took that leap, and you were able to have fun with it. So I saw that you were featured in Telemundo and Fort Myers, right? So did that experience at all change how you carry yourself at weddings, or were the cameras just capturing who you already are? Were you already that person when you were in that interview?
Well, in that interview, I remember already was like that person. Like I was very well like doing a lot of weddings, and when they like interviewing me, it was more like about myself, like what I wanted to do in the future and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. It's fun. Every interview is fun. I really have fun like talking, and also like for me, it's kind of new, like have a conversation because like my first language is Spanish.
Yeah, yeah.
And I learned English when I moved like probably like 8 years ago. But I'm trying to be more like, like more fluent
Outgoing.
in English.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're doing great. You're doing great. Some of
Thank
my
you. Thank you.
family, some of my family's been here for 30, 40 years and they still don't know English. So give yourself some credit, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And also here in Florida, it's a bit harder because like everyone speaks Spanish. So you have to, if you want to learn English, you have to do it because you want to do it. Because if not, you can live your life and never learn English. So
Absolutely. Where I live, the New Jersey, New York area, you could live in communities where nobody even speaks English. Like everybody can speak Spanish and that's it. And
yeah.
like you said, you could just stay stuck and say, "Okay, I could be okay." But at the end of the day, maybe you've already seen it. Has that helped you at all, knowing both languages and what you're doing as far as like clients and couples?
Yeah, definitely. Like well, the first year that I came, I ended up going to like a library. It was like the house that I was living in front of the house, it was a library, and they have a tutor, like English tutor. And I was going every day to speak with him, like about anything. He was like, he took a newspaper and started talking like, okay, let's go through the news. And I was like, okay. And we started talking, talking, talking. And that's how I learned because my uncle when I came was like, "Hey, if you wanna like do anything, you have to learn English first." So I was like, "Okay." So I spent a whole year learning English, and when I was ready, he was like, "Okay, now you can go ahead and do whatever you want." I was like, "Okay, let's do it." So that was like the first experience for me, for my mom, for my brother. It was like you have to learn English. If no, you can't do anything. So I was like, "Okay, let's do it."
Hey, that's great that you did it. Look, we're doing this interview in English and you're killing it right now.
Thank you.
So you mentioned, the whole that 18 moment when you came here, English started becoming a foundation. When did you realize though that this thing with playing the violin and music wasn't just a passion? Because starting so young at 5 years old, there's got to be some passion in there to be able to do it this long. But did it go from that passion to you saying, "Wow, this can be a business that I can grow"?
Yeah, so the first moment that I was like, I can do something with music, it was actually when I was in Venezuela when I was like 15 years old. When I was 15 years old, I created a band. So I was playing violin, I had a singer, I have a drum set, I have like a guitarist. So it was like a whole band. And we used to play in a restaurant, but that restaurant was like a fancy restaurant in the city. But to get to the restaurant, we have to do like a trial. So we were kids. We were like 15 years old. But the owner was like, "Well, if you want to play here, just make a trial and play some music." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it." We did a trial. We passed the test, and then we were playing every weekend in that restaurant. And I was going to high school and then going to that restaurant in the night. So it was like a experience in that. And in that period of time, it was like 2015, 16. The country, like Venezuela, was going through like the worst like era in the whole history. I was living like a good life because I was like playing and having fun, but at the same time the country was like not working at all and it was like insecurity. So it was really weird moment for me because I was being happy with the music, but at the same time it was super dangerous, like to go outside, to do anything. So it was really weird. But at least I had an idea of like, okay, I can do something with music. Like this is actually something that I can make it work. It happened for like a whole year, for like let's say like from 2016 to 2017. Then the economy went like down, so nobody was hiring anyone. But I got that year, I was like I got my high school diploma, and that was the year, like next year was the year that I moved to the US. But I already have all that experience, like playing in restaurant, playing weddings, playing events in Venezuela with like no resources. My acoustic violin. We were like kids, and we were like doing music with, from scratch. So
Yeah.
when I came here with being 18, I was like, okay, if I made it work in Venezuela with nothing, I can definitely make it work here with like something, with like I can buy a decent speaker, a violin, and start playing on the streets or whatever. So that was my first mentality when I moved. I was like, I can do it, like that was my mindset. Like I can do anything, but I'll do it. And I feel like how I did it, it was just performing videos on the internet. I was like just doing videos on Instagram. I was like doing when TikTok came, I was doing videos on TikTok, and I was like, okay, I just gonna perform and do like videos. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew it was like if I keep doing it in the like I was gonna find something in the way.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. And
Thank you, thank you.
you hit on a couple of things that make me think of like coming from different countries, and some of them, let's call it third world countries that are not as developed or stable, let's call it stable or whatever, as maybe the United States or whatever. You learn to appreciate and go through things differently. And here's an example that I could give, that I was just literally talking to somebody the other day. In Colombia, I lived in Colombia for a little bit. I was used to taking a shower without hot water. That was okay. And if I wanted hot water, I would have to go boil it in the pot and then throw it in. And sometimes
Yeah,
I would be
exactly.
taking a bath in the place where, I don't know, they wash clothes and like a brick
Yeah,
thingamajiggy. I don't know if you ever seen one. In the tank, no air condition, like little things that is just everyday life for us now here in the United States. I know the difference. So then sometimes when people would, complain about certain things, I'm like, well, look, you got it pretty good here, because in some other countries, this is like a super luxury. You may either have to have a lot of money or whatever. I mean, now maybe things are getting a little different, but like back then, it was like, it wasn't in every house, an air conditioner, hot water. It was like, these are
yeah,
all
definitely.
mini luxuries. So the fact that you were able to use your experience and your upcoming coming from Venezuela and say, well, if I could do it here, I could do it anywhere. I think that's amazing that you use that drive versus feeling defeated or overwhelmed. I'm in a new country, I'm in a new space. I don't, I feel helpless, so that's really cool. Another thing that you mentioned in that is that you started making videos um online, right? So the TikToks and the Instagrams in the world. Let's talk about that a little bit. What was your first, like, I guess you could say, where did you start seeing your initial like growth, like blowing up on social media? Was it TikTok? Was it Instagram? Where did that happen?
It was in both
Okay.
platforms. I remember when I was like my first videos, I you remember I was like trying to get the attention of artists. So for example, if an artist came up with a new song, I play that song and I try to that artist to make a story of my song playing it. So that was my way to get followers. For example, like I remember one of my first videos that was like good video. It was like Micro TDH, that is like a Venezuelan singer.
Okay.
I played a song for him and he put it in his stories, and that story was like everyone was watching the story. I remember I was also in high school and people was like, "Oh my god, he posted your story, you're famous." I was like, "Yeah."
So, wait.
So I got exactly. So I got like I don't know, like let's say 50 followers, 100 followers, but it was like my way to get followers, like getting the attention of other artists. I remember the first big artist that saw one of my videos was J Balvin. I remember and I didn't have a lot of followers, but I remember he commented on the video. He also posted the video, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is big!" And that was like that gave me like the spark to like keep doing it, because I was like, "Okay, I got the attention of J Balvin. Now I want the attention of Arcangel or like this other artist or like I don't know whoever." And I try, and I remember like the first video that it went viral was on TikTok, and it was like a video that I was performing in a restaurant. I was playing like Latin music, and that video went like super viral. Like that was my first video. I got like 1 million views, and after that video, everyone was like reaching out to me to play for events or play for restaurants or like parties and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, people actually want me to play this music on restaurants or like weddings and stuff like that. So I was like my way to like, okay, let's keep doing it. And at the same time, I was learning how to do it because it was something really new. Because when I was like first starting, my mindset was like, oh, I'm gonna play music, but I didn't know what to play because I was first when you're, for example, in Venezuela, people likes American music. So I used to play more like, you know, like I told you, Bruno Mars, Ed Sheeran, stuff like that. When I moved here, I played that music, but people was more like into Latin music. So I was like, oh, I actually love Latin music, but I wasn't used to play it because no one asked for it. So I remember once my first gig, someone hired me to play in like an opening restaurant. And I went with my playlist and it was just, you know, like Ed Sheeran and stuff like that. And then the lady was like, hey, can you play some of the Bad Bunny music that you play on your Instagram? And I was like, she wants Bad Bunny on the. I couldn't believe it because I like my social media. It was like, okay, this is the font size of me playing the music that I like. And in real life, I was like, okay, people want something else. But actually, then that day, I realized like, oh no, people actually want the music that I play on social media. And that was like the time that I was like, okay, I have to play this music.
That's amazing. That's amazing that, you know, I try to say, and I learned this too over the years. It's like when you do things for yourself, like you were doing that music for yourself, right? It was like fun, whatever, enjoyable, but you put it out there, you put it out into the social media world, so to speak. Eventually you will find your tribe. You will find your people who like that part of you because it's authentic to who you are, right? It's this is who is true to you and things that are amazing. I mean, I know I've posted videos of like, I don't know, like a random mashup or things that I made like for fun, right? I do it for me. And then I'd be like, people, hey, can you play that on my wedding? I'm like, really? You want me to do that at your what? The same reaction, like, really? Like, you like that? And okay, like, but you second guess it, like, wait, what? Are you serious? But that's amazing that you started to not only build your following, get inquiries and people wanting to your services, which I can imagine was probably overwhelming at first. Like, wait, like, where do I start? How much do I charge? What do I do? You know, like that's a lot for a young artist, but you followed it and here you are today. And with that, you know, some of these things that we have perceptions of people and artists, you know, what is one of the things you feel like, what's one of like the biggest misunderstandings people have about the life of like this destination wedding musician, like, you know, that they think that maybe when they send you messages and like, oh, like, you know, Sebagabo, and you know, what is something that they misunderstand, do you think?
Actually, I don't know. Like people think about I don't know. People, I don't know what people think, honestly. Like, I've been like, for example, the other day I went to the well, do you know, to get the driver license? I was doing like my driver license and like renewal and all that. And I remember someone was like, hey, you're the violin guy. What's up? And he took a picture of me. I was like, hey, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm just taking my driver license like anyone else, you know? You need to go to the same place. So I don't know. People think like maybe if you need a passport or anything, you just get it like I don't know automatically or anything. But you just have to go to the same place.
You're still a person, right?
Exactly. So it's I feel like that's kind of interesting to see, or like when people see you in the street like driving, or like maybe in a restaurant, it's like, oh, you actually, or maybe in a flight, like people think like you're in the first class, and you're like, no, I'm at the bottom with anyone else, you know. I'm suffering with my violin here, like because traveling with the violin is also like
Yeah.
painful. So yeah, but it's funny. I mean, I enjoy it. I
That's
don't
awesome.
also consider myself like super famous, but like I mean, I'm just living my life, so you know, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, like you said, you know, people like on social media, they see a certain thing, and then, like you said, like they see you somewhere where everybody else has to go, and you're like, I got to do the same thing everybody else does. Maybe because I got a big following or whatever, it doesn't mean, you know, I can't, I get this special treatment. So that's really cool. You know, a lot of our conversation has been a part of like your journey and, you know, let's call it young. I don't know if you were Sebagabo back then, but maybe Sebastian becoming Sebagabo. What would you give as a piece of advice to a young violinist, maybe who is 10 or 15 or whatever, trying to break into the events industry today?
Like, well, usually people ask me like, "Hey, what can I do?" and all stuff like that. For my experience, what I did, it was just like just put music out there, put your work out there. Like for me, it was social media. Maybe for you, it's something else. Maybe for you, it's like I'm gonna go and play in a restaurant. I play in a different. I don't know. You got a DJ set do a live show with a DJ set and show my work on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, like any platform, but just put your music out there. Some people is like afraid to like, I don't know, this video is not perfect. Like for me, it's like just put it out there. People then's gonna judge it and be like, hey, that video suck or that video is amazing. But that doesn't matter. Like if you put it out there, people are gonna see it, and that's exposure. And then eventually you're gonna get better at it. Like I remember my first videos, it were like probably wasn't the best, and probably I looked bad or I wasn't the wrong angle. I didn't have it, but that gives you exposure in that moment. And now I can say like, well, I get better with editing the videos. I get better live, but can't came with time. If you don't get the experience, you're never gonna be able to be better. Yeah, and the same with performances. Like for me, example, like my playlist, I used to try that on like live shows and like restaurants or like with people. If I see like the song it wasn't working, the person like if the people wasn't like vibing with the song, I remove it from the playlist and I try a new one. And then with years, I got like a good set list that I say like, okay, this is like hits, like no one's gonna miss it. But that count with like 2, 3 years of experience, like performing the same songs over and over and being like, hey, maybe this one work, maybe this one doesn't work. And you just have to just try it out, play a lot, practice your like instrument. If you play the violin or you play any instrument, like just practice a lot. And
That's a lot of good advice. And I think one of the biggest pieces that I hear in there, especially for somebody young growing up in the world that we're living in with social media and thing, they see all this, call it overnight success, right? They see Sebagabo and they think that he just started with all these followers and all these things, but they didn't realize that he's been doing this since he was 5 and that he has grown and that he's tried and he's made mistakes and that, he came to this country and he still kept trying. They don't see that, right? So then they're just thinking like you said, this has to be perfect. Like even like it could be something as simple as like the audio, how it sounds or whatever, like the quality, that all can get better. But if you don't try, like you said, you're not going to know, you're not going to figure it out. You're not going to be able to get better and see, okay, what can I look back on to improve. So I think that is a big piece there that you just got to start and you got to start somewhere. And I use this quote that I love that I live by and that I used to be guilty of this is that as I say, don't let perfect get in the way of done. Pretty much saying we're always looking for this perfection and then that's why we're not doing things or we're not making things happen versus you just got to do it and as you go you figure it out and you get better. I think it's different if you're just doing something you're never trying to get better. That's different. But if you start with the intention of saying I'm going to get better, I'm going to improve, how can I take this to the next level? I think you can definitely make something of it. So hopefully any young musicians out there listening to this, that could be a piece of advice that you just got to start and you got to keep going, put yourself out there. And you also mentioned that you play, whether it's maybe they're playing with like along DJs. I know sometimes you play alongside DJs, right? So like in those environments, do you feel like you could still be that authentic version of yourself when you're playing with a DJ? Or does that take something else out of you to be able to perform now? Because you were, let's say, this, I wouldn't call it a solo artist, but let's call it a solo artist for lack of better terms. Like all these years, like you've been doing the solo violin thing, and now you're doing a hybrid with a DJ. Like, how does that change what you do?
I feel like it depends of the DJ, of course. Like if the DJ have a good taste in music, they're gonna see in you where are you able to play the songs like correctly, you know? Like sometimes I like there's a restaurant here in Orlando that I used to play, yeah, and the DJ is really good over there. So when I play with him, I know that he's gonna just play hits and play the music that I really like and he likes. So and sometimes for example, let's say like the voice of the singer, he turn it off and he let me do a solo and I do a solo and then he put the music back. So it depends on the DJ, I guess. Also, like when you do clubs, it's more like vibing with the bass and it's more like crazy stuff. So I already know that whatever I do is more like show wise than like the music wise, like because people is more like interesting like what they see. So I already know that for example, if I go to a club, I have to bring my LED violin with LED lights and do more
True.
like move and dance because it's more visual than like listening. Exactly. So it's, it just depends. But I feel like every environment is different and I feel like you can get the best out of every situation. You know, if you're with a good DJ, you play different sets. If I'm solo, I play my music that I like. If I, it's like like different clients. Like if you have a client that likes, for example, from me with my clients, I usually ask them like, "What's your favorite music?" And sometimes they say songs that I never heard in my life. So I'm like, "Okay, I have to play this song. And maybe I don't like it, but I have to do it because they're like my clients now." And I try to get the best out of that music that I'm playing, maybe for the first time. So I really enjoy like any kind of music because like when if people is vibing with the music, I like it. If people is like not listening to me, probably I'm like, I don't like this song.
Yeah, yeah.
But if people are vibing, I feel like it was worth it. Like I like it.
You feed off the energy of the crowd. As a musician, you kind of get that. But
Yeah, definitely. Like for example, I play Bollywood. I play a lot of Bollywood weddings.
wow.
And usually clients ask for Bollywood music, and that's not like you don't listen to Bollywood music on the daily basis, but on weddings when you play Bollywood music in a Hindi wedding, it's crazy. Like people just like start like dancing and be with you in the moment. So I love the music in that moment because like when you perform it, people are vibing with you and being like, "Oh my god, yeah, that's my song." Or maybe like Jewish music too. Like they have like this hype music that is like techno wise. I really like it because when I perform and they're around me, they start dancing. They're like crazy with the music. I was like, okay, I love this. So I
Interesting.
like to vibe more with like the style of the music. Like it's the same with Latin music. When you perform Latin music with a lot of Latin people, it's just
Yeah. They're
amazing.
singing,
So you're
singing,
singing, you're
dancing.
dancing. Exactly. So it's the same vibe with like every genre, every kind of music. So I really like it.
That's really cool. And I'm learning stuff here too that you're playing Bollywood and all these different genres. See? You see, guys? You see this guy on Instagram, you might have never known that he plays Bollywood music or this high energy techno Jewish music. So you mentioned your clients and your couples, right? And to me, at the end of the day, the violin is an emotional instrument. It gives that emotion and or maybe you give the example where the DJ cuts off the vocals because that is the message of the song or whatever the case may be. So, how do you honor a couple's vision while still sounding like you, right? So, you're playing this Bollywood music or you're playing this techno Jewish music or this other music maybe that you've never heard before. So, you're still trying to make them happy, but how do you stay true to you as an artist?
For example, if there's a song that I don't like, no, I don't like. If there's a song I haven't played before and I'm like learning the song, I try to put my, like a way that I like maybe, and I try to talk to a couple like, hey, maybe this song is a little bit too fast. Let's try. I'm gonna try to make a slower version, and the violin is gonna sound better with the melody. So I try to always like talk to a couple about my vision on the music, even though maybe I haven't played it before. So, for example, there was a song that a client sent me. It was like from a Bollywood movie, and there was like a violin version, but the violin version was super short because it was like a TikTok that went viral. Another violinist played it, so
Mhm.
she sent me that version, but that version was like 30 seconds, and like the right entrance is probably at least a minute. And
At
that
least.
one, it was a long one because it was like a big venue, and so I was like, okay, I can do this, but I have to do it my way, probably not the TikTok version. So what I did, it was like I played the whole backing track with the piano and I tried to make it longer. And then I add some strings to the backing track and I make it like longer. And I asked the couple like, hey, this sounds good. And they were like super, super nice. They were like, yeah, I love it. This is perfect. And it worked. And usually for me, like, I'm glad that like my clients really trust my taste or what I want to do because if they hire me, they know like I'm gonna try to do as best as I can. I'm gonna try to go with the vision and also like my vision. But in those cases, I feel like you have to try to make it work with both visions, like make it like in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You get their input, right? Because you wanna know, but you also gotta make it yourself. And just to note here, if people are ever questioning Sebagabo's pricing right now, and I know like, do you understand what this man was saying right now? He's talking about recreating a song, creating a backing track, and doing all these extra things, right? So he's not just showing up and just playing he's doing a lot more. And, I feel like people sometimes don't know what goes into what you do as a musician. And I'm not a trained musician, but I have an understanding a little bit because I've worked with many musicians and I dabble with production stuff a little bit here and there. there's some work behind the scenes that go into what you do. Obviously, with your years of experience and all these other things. So I think that's important to know in what you're doing and still making it yours. I think that's really cool. And most importantly, you're connecting with people who trust you, because if they don't trust you, then you're both not going to have a good time. You're not going to do your best work. They're not going to enjoy themselves. So I think the trust factor is so important when you're working with couples. So I want to take a step back here and talk a little bit about a topic that we've kind of been going over a little bit, but I just kind of want to have an understanding here, of this 18-year-old that left Venezuela. You left a country to come to Florida to potentially chase this dream. Despite whether things were good or bad there, it was still your home. It was still all that you knew. How was it going through that? Like, did you feel like you left anything behind? Like, what did it cost you as a person? Like, let's put aside the artist for a second.
Yeah, for like those moments were like really hard. Like my family was like debating between like, hey, this is like really bad. Like my mom is a medical doctor in Venezuela. So we were like, I went from living a normal life, like you don't realize like what you're living. And then when I was like turning like 13 or something, I was seeing like the whole crisis in the whole country, everything going down. And like my mom started like getting like treated for like criminals and stuff like that. So this was like weeks, like it was like the worst 2 weeks of my life. I will say I was like 18 years old. My brother was like 15, and in 2 weeks we were like, hey, we have to go with your uncle in Tampa. I was like, okay. So what should I bring? I bring my violin, like the acoustic violin that I had, and just like luggage. Like with cherry. So it was like, I don't know, like 3 shirts, 2 pants, like that was it. We went to my uncle. My uncle received us. And it was like super nice with us. We lived with him for a year, and it happened like what he said, like, hey, you have to learn English. He teaches us like what to do. He buys us bikes. He gives us food. We were like in a really bad situation, but in the moment I was like, okay, this is a new start, fresh start. I was just like graduating from high school, and my mind was like, okay, I have to do something here, but not music related, because music does gonna it's not gonna be like something reliable. And that was my mindset in the moment. I was living in a country, so I was like, okay, I need to do something better.
Yeah.
And my mindset, I was like, yeah, I have to do something. In Venezuela, I went to in a school that when you graduate from high school, you get a degree for like phlebotomy, kind of. So you draw blood, basically. You work in a lab. My mindset, it was like, okay, if I did that in Venezuela, I can do it here, maybe do some college, and I graduated in something in healthcare. My mom was a doctor, so I was like, okay, I have all that, like that knowledge.
Right, right, right.
So when I tried to do it, I got my diploma, like doing like phlebotomy, and I started working as a phlebotomy for like, I don't know, let's say like a year. But I really didn't like it. Like it was so bad. Also, one those years was like COVID, so I went to the hospital working as a with the COVID, like during COVID. So I had to wear all like wagon. Everyone was like, happening the worst scenario possible. So I was like, this is not for me. So I was like, well, I want to try to do something with music, but at the same time, I wasn't sure what. So I applied to this music school in Tampa, and I was like 18 years old. No, 19 years old when I applied to that school. I went there and they asked me to do an interview. When I did the interview, they were like, "Hey, what's your background?" I was like, you have experience. I was like, no, I have no experience. You speak English. I was like, I speak a little bit of English. And they're like, okay, well, we can't help you, but can you come and play for us? Like, do like, just prove that you can play violin. I was like, okay. I went there and I played like I don't know, like a super masterpiece on the violin, so I can prove myself like, hey, I'm good. So I just need an opportunity. And I remember the guy who plays the violin there, who was like, okay, you're hired, because he saw like I was good enough. They were like, then after the years came up, when I speak about that interview, they were like, "Oh, we were so afraid because you were just a teenager. You didn't speak English. You have no experience, but you were so good that we have to give you opportunities." So I was like, "Yeah, I'm really glad that they gave me an opportunity, because they gave me a lot of experience. I practice my English every day with little kids. I start like teaching them violin. I start teaching like piano. I teach them ukulele. So I learned while they were learning music. I was part of that music school for like since like 2019 until 2023. So it was like almost like 5 years like teaching music as a music teacher. and I'm really happy that they hired me, even like not having like any diploma, any like no nothing, like for nothing. And while I was doing that, I was doing really well as a music teacher. I was like doing something with music related. I was really happy. But at the same time, I was doing those videos, like, like those social media. But it was more for fun. It was more like, hey, I wanna just show my music, show my art. I remember, for example, I used to teach on Saturdays from like 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I teach classes, and then at 4 p.m. I went to the backyard and start recording videos after the lessons. And then I
Wow.
started like doing the TikTok videos, but it was more for fun. It was by myself. And then those videos started like getting more views and stuff, like getting more audience. People were like, "Hey, do this song, do that song." And I remember I had a lot of videos on my Instagram in that music studio because I was teaching, and then the recess I was recording videos for social media. So they were like, I remember the director of the school, it was like, "Oh, you're doing a lot of videos." And also that gave me a lot more recognition for my students, because my students were like, "Hey, I saw you one of your videos. You were performing Old Town Road." I remember that was famous in that moment. And
Yeah.
you had like a cowboy hat. I was like, "Yeah." So it was like a funny thing with my students. And they were like, "I want to learn that song." And I started like teaching them those songs, like modern music. And I started implementing like that in my lessons. Like, hey, we can play Vivaldi, but if you play Vivaldi, I can teach you this Justin Bieber song. And they were like, okay, so they got motivation on that.
Yeah. Wow.
And then after that, like I start getting more views on Instagram, like TikTok, and all this happened. Then it was like a moment that I was doing both things. I was teaching music, and then I got a lot of requests for like weddings and like events and doing all these things. And then after I had to make a decision because I had too many events and like also have too many students. So I had to leave something behind, and I ended up like leaving the school, and now like I'm doing what I do now. But yeah, it was like a difficult moment, but I tried to like make it work in some way.
It sounds like you made it work in some way, but once again, reminding people that it wasn't overnight, that it was a process.
Nah, definitely not.
And one of the things that stood out to me that you said that could maybe potentially help a new person, and not just music, but in life in general, is it sounds like your mindset changed a lot over the years. And one of the things that I know how your mindset changed is the way that you said, instead of saying like, oh man, I had to start new, it was a fresh start. Like just even changing the way that you talk about things can change where you're headed with things. And despite the difficult time that you went through and the common, I guess you could say, things that we hear as people who do music or anything, artist related, everybody feels like the artist has to struggle. You don't have to struggle. You could definitely do things that you enjoy and love, and make a living out of it and find fulfillment in it. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because we often hear obviously about the people with, it doesn't matter how much money you have, they're still not happy. So I think it's finding both. I think you do need money to live. So I'm not going to say you don't. You need the money, but also having the other side of the fulfillment, I think, is an important part too. And you were able to find both and even help some people along the way when you help those students. I mean, once again, I'm finding out so many more things than once again scrolling through your Instagram today. No, not today, over the time that I've been following you. So that's amazing. We're getting towards the end of the interview, and I like to end with a few rapid fire questions. So these questions are almost like the first thing that pops into your head. You don't have to like overthink it. It doesn't need to be a long answer. And so my first question is, what's the one thing that guests remember most about a wedding performance?
I will say the way you perform.
The way you perform. Okay.
The way you perform, yeah, I will say the way you perform, because sometimes if you're so for example, if you're in a performing and you're sitting in a chair and you're just performing for yourself, like reading the sheet music, you're like performing for yourself. You're not performing for other people. If you're like, for example, like I like to be in front of everyone so they can see me, they can take pictures, they can remember that moment. So when people go to the couple, because usually I don't play for the couple, I play more for the guests than the
Hmm.
couple. So
Gotcha.
when the couple, the guests start talking about you, like, hey, oh my God, the violinist was so good. He was killing it. He was like dancing. He was like performing. He was like, he looks so good with the sunglasses. I don't know, whatever. So they start like sending videos to the couple. The couple is like, oh my God, people really like it. So I feel like the way that you perform is tells more about the performance.
Got it. Yeah. So how you're interactive, I think, is cool. And look, you gave a great example that I didn't think about, but I actually dealt with a musician. I don't have to say who they were, what instrument they played. That one time was just sitting in the chair in the corner, and this was supposed to be for like a live DJ set.
Oh my
This
god.
this wasn't even cocktail hour or ceremony. This was like during the party, and I was just kind of like, what's the energy in the room right now if you're going to be sitting in the chair? So that 1,000% makes a huge difference. All right. What is one wedding trend you've seen that just needs to retire, like needs to go?
Wedding trend. I don't know. I will say Canon D. I would say that.
So it's
Yeah,
gone.
I play in the Canon D since I'm like 6 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
It's
I have
it's
to
time.
stop.
It's time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's time to get new songs.
Yeah. I can't imagine when it was composed, but it's got to be before all of our time. So yeah. Yeah. I think I agree with that one. Last rapid fire question is, what is the secret ingredient that makes an event truly unforgettable?
I would say great vendors. So if you have like the great team, like you have a great DJ, like great musicians, great florists, like if you have like good vendors, it's not a fail. If you have a good planner too, it's gonna be great.
Awesome. Yeah. No, you need the right team. And then I actually share that sometimes too, as far as like, if you get the right people, you don't have to worry about things. But if you pick, it's like a team, right? If you have weak players on your team, somebody's going to be worried. You might lose the game. But if you have the good team, a solid team, you have a lot more hope that you're going to win and you're going to do an amazing job. And, for the couples, it's less for them to worry about. So, last and final question. This is not a rapid fire question. So, answer how you will. If you want it to be short, you want it to be long, it's up to you. What makes a client the right fit for your energy and your business?
I will say a client that wants a unique experience, I will say. Also, a client that is willing to listen and take advice and get well guide into your experience as a musician, like in this case, me, because I can help the client to make everything with my vision and with my experience so more smooth, and maybe I can give like good suggestions. I can do better for their wedding day. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that that's a good client.
So, somebody who maybe believes in collaboration, trusts in you as an artist and your professional input. I think that's amazing. Sebagabo, where can people find you, connect with you? Where you're most active? Let them know.
They can find me on Instagram, TikTok, any platform as Sebagabo.
Okay.
Even Spotify, they can listen to my music on Spotify.
Ooh.
Sebagabo.
Go check out Sebagabo across all
Mm.
platforms. You could also maybe find him at the DMV getting his license picture as well, 'cause he is a
Yeah,
normal
I'll be
person.
there.
Thank you so much for joining us today on The Right Fit. Whoever's listening or watching, I hope that you guys got some value out of this, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.